Welcome to the Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay, breaking down tonight's 9-game NBA slate, and it's another fun one. We're dealing with a lot of high totals and really, some fair amount of injury news that can kind of swerve things either way for tonight. But looking at some games here, and you're obviously looking at three of the top games being Minnesota, Washington, Golden State, Dallas, and Phoenix and Sacramento as far as top totals. But really, everyone but Memphis and San Antonio is pretty appealing tonight.
Yeah, and I think you're probably going to stick to GPPs with the Golden State Dallas game, but most of these players are in play. Especially with some of the injury concerns we've seen.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the Warriors game, 14-point spread there. Definitely kind of a GPP only game. And if you're looking at Parsons being out, that kind of takes a lot of the sting away from the Dallas side trying to keep up with Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
The other block concern that's right now it's at 9 points is Orlando's Miami. Heat are favored by 9. And Victor Oladipo's questionable. So if Oladipo sits out tonight, that leaves Orlando struggling.
Puts a damper on some of those Miami players that we were kind of looking forward to tonight if he doesn't play. If he does play, even if he plays 20, 25 minutes, I think we're still looking at some of those Heat players as value types.
Yeah, definitely. The other block concern, Spurs are 13-point favorites at Memphis there. So, yes, that's pretty crazy when you got the San Antonio resting a few guys and no Kawhi. That just kind of shows you how deep they are and also just how bad Memphis is.
Right. We were talking about it before the show. Andre Miller is on the Grizzlies right now, and he's going to get some playing time. So that's the state of affairs in Memphis right now.
We look at those middle games. There's a lot to like. You're looking at Toronto, Houston, 212, which is a 1-point spread there. Lakers, Denver, 214, 3-point spread. Those are two games to really target. I also like Charlotte, Detroit, 205, kind of picking and choosing from there. Milwaukee, Atlanta is another one. Those are kind of the closer games, and they just kind of take a less appeal from those three top ones, but still are very much in play.
Right, and I think on this type of slate, you're looking at some of these correlation plays in those games as where you might hit big in some GPPs.
Definitely. Moving to point guard tonight, and there's a lot of top options to really look at. You're looking at Curry, obviously, is always a great GPP play, but I'm worried about the spread there. Me and you, if we're paying up in all formats, it's John Wall in this matchup.
Yeah, I love this matchup for him, and I like a few of the value plays sort of around him. We know John Wall has GPP upside, so even on sort of a bigger slate, he definitely can get into that 55, 60 fantasy point range if things go well. So, yeah, definitely looking at him. Obviously, Curry's always in play, but I think tonight I just like Wall a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit closer game. Home matchup against Minnesota. They've led the fourth most fantasy points per game to point guards this season. Big, juicy 112 total. I'm all over Washington as well. I do like that. A little bit cheaper, and one guy that kind of never quite reaches that 9K range, although he maybe should at times, is Kyle Lowry going up against Houston. And birthday game.
Baby. No, and it's a birthday game, so there is that, and he also has a pretty decent matchup as well. So, yeah, everything, quite a few nice little things going his way tonight.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I like that price tag. I like him in all formats. And, the guy is averaging 23, 5, and 6 over the last 10 games. Also grabs a fair amount of steals as well. Took a rest day last game. He was kind of dealing with some bumps and bruises, so I expect him back ready to go tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And if Toronto is in that resting stage and maybe they take DeMar DeRozan and rest him as well, Lowry's he would shoot right up.
Crazy. Yeah. Kemba probably not in play. This recent stretch and sort of ever since Al Jefferson has come back, it's like that little bit of offensive usage that's down kind of limits his upside a little bit.
Yeah, you're looking at that game against Brooklyn. You kind of really expected him to thrive. A couple other matchups matchup against Orlando didn't do too well. He's been a little bit up and down. I don't really like the matchup against Detroit tonight. And there's just too many options around him and just lower. You're looking at that Phoenix-Sacramento game. Rondo, GPP play, Knight, solid play in all formats.
Right. I love that game in general, and I like both of those matchups tonight. So I think both of them could have a really good night.
Yeah, I mean, both teams struggle against point guards, so we can see that. I'm not looking for Rondo to score 25 points again just because Bogey was out last time out, but certainly a triple-double upside.
Definitely.
So, go a little bit cheaper. Goran Dragic, great matchup. I love that price tag on DK. 6,200. It's not really bad. The one concern now is Oladipo being questionable. Who the hell's going to score for Orlando to keep this thing close?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you love the sort of initial situation for Dragic. You kind of are hoping Oladipo fights it out tonight and plays, because if he does, then I love Dragic. And I'd say the first two guys I looked at when I looked at point guard pricing, him and Moutier really stuck out to me as nice values.
I mean, Moutier, any matchup against the Lakers is going to be huge for me. And now at a price that's 6,000 and below 6,000 on both sites there. Going up against the Lakers, even though he hasn't been shooting the ball well of late, I still like him. He's still producing a decent amount of points and peripheral stats, averaging over 35 against the Lakers this season. At that price, it's nice. I expect him to be pretty chalky tonight, even with his sub 40% field goal percentage of late.
Yeah, when a guy under 6K goes for 51 fantasy points in the previous game, probably going to be chalky. But, I mean, he obviously has some downside, but I think at that price it's worth it.
Yeah, and then looking at that matchup against the Lakers, it's obviously going to be a plus.
Right.
Elfrid Payton in the starting lineup tonight, and maybe Skiles is like, all right, you earned it with the triple-double. That's what you have to do to get in my lineups these days. I can't really see playing him. I know he's cheap. Maybe if Oladipo sits, you take a shot at him at that price. I don't like the matchup, though.
Yeah, I mean, the ownership percentages might be your friend tonight with him, but probably because a lot of people like me, and I think Jason's with me too. You look at it, just Collison's so much safer, in the same price range that it just doesn't necessarily make sense. I mean, especially in cash or something like that.
Yeah, Collison's a good call. He's the next one I'm talking about, going up against Phoenix in that high-scoring game. DJ Augustine is another one. I mean, his minutes, right around 27 minutes in the last 5 games, 14, 2, and 5. Kind of a nice role player off the bench. I like that a lot, and it's kind of led to a little bit of a downfall for minutes in Moutier, but not too bad to hurt him. He's a safe option. I think he's not the punt play he used to be, but still, I mean, definitely worth a look.
Yeah, his price has stabilized a little bit, but I think we're still looking at a reasonable value for cash games there. And one more, Jeremy Lin's been playing pretty well lately. I mean, you don't like the matchup, but still only 3,900 on DraftKings. So at least worth taking a look, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking a look. It's a tough matchup. Lin's been playing well, and I think GPP wise, I mean, I guess anyone that puts up, over 40 against the Spurs deserve to be looked at, even in a matchup against Detroit. So, but I mean, Lin's playing well. Maybe it's the hair.
It might be the hair, man. Linsanity's back.
For at least this week.
For this 3-game stretch, he's back, baby.
Moving over to shooting guard, and obviously we're looking at James Harden coming off a near quadruple-double, 8 steals, 26 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds last game against Utah. You got to take in the fact that really, I mean, Utah, Houston, I mean, those teams are in a battle for that last spot in the West there, and you expect Harden to kind of put this team on his back and really try and carry him offensively.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what he's doing right now. He's literally carrying this team in pretty much every offensive category right now. So, I mean, yeah, I expect that to continue, not necessarily in that 60-point range, but I mean, his usage is going to continue to be crazy. So, definitely in play, especially. Might be a little harder to fit him in tonight, but definitely for tournaments.
Yeah, he has that upside, even though Toronto's perceived as a tougher matchup. They've kind of been slipping efficiency-wise of late. So just Harden's usage kind of just outweighs everything. I just think I don't mind building a lineup around him, especially in tournaments tonight. And I'm scared to fade him actually at this point with his upside and what he's shown lately.
Yeah, definitely tough to fade at this point.
Looking at DeMar DeRozan, I mean, he's in a great spot. He's also a candidate to sit tonight just in case because Toronto's kind of in that stage. I like the matchup. I think his production can be done a little bit cheaper, though.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you look at him, it's not bad. It's actually pretty solid overall, but there are just some guys in that range and cheaper that I like a little more tonight.
And speaking of those guys, looking at Devin Booker, great matchup against Sacramento. Big fan of his. He's my favorite shooting guard on the slate. I just think points per dollar, he's solid. 38 minutes per game over the last 10, averaging 21, 3, and 5. A matchup against the Kings, kind of all adds up for me.
Right, his floor is definitely higher tonight, just based on the matchup than you would normally see. And I mean, it's a lot cheaper than some of those DeRozans and Oladipos, So pretty solid cash play.
Yeah, and he definitely has that 40-plus upside as well that we've seen. Look, if you want to get exposure to GPPs, Klay Thompson, a little bit cheaper price tag. He has torched Dallas this season in 3 games, averaging 31 points per game. I mean, the guy's shooting lights out from the field right now. I mean, we saw that last game with him and Curry just dropping 30 each. I mean, it was sick.
It's crazy. And I mean, like you mentioned, he's killed Dallas this year. The only real worry is that it's just a complete blowout like we've seen quite a few times with them at home this year. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Solid matchup. Everything's good. If they can stay in it for more than sort of 2 quarters, he could really hit.
That's definitely the concern. I mean, yeah, we've seen it. I mean, he's shooting the ball well. The lack of peripheral stats is one of the things that kind of irks me about Thompson, just because he does have to score 30 to really get off. And that's it's asking a lot.
Right.
But looking cheaper, guy you were kind of talking about is Chris Middleton. The price has really come down of late just because his minutes have been down, but his minutes bounced back last time out, 37 against Cleveland. He was still productive in the minimal time, but the peripheral stats took a little bit of a dive. When I get that new price tag, he's definitely worth a look.
And again, he had a stretch where his floor was really low. So you can understand why his price dropped, but I don't necessarily think that represents who he is going forward. I think that was more a blip on the screen than sort of what he's shown us for most of the year. So, yeah, I think he's back into being a pretty reasonable cash game play tonight.
Definitely. I mean, now he sits in the range of Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine on DK there, Wiggins small forward on FanDuel. On DK, I like Wiggins a lot. I like him just a little bit more. He's playing a 3 against Washington. He's a guy who's kind of picked up the peripheral stats a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean adding maybe 2 or 3 more assists per game, which is nice because he's still scoring over 20. Against this perimeter defense in Washington, they've allowed the highest field goal percentage of small forwards this season. I don't see any way he scores less than 20 tonight.
Yeah, I just like that game a lot. I think they match up well in terms of fantasy points scored. Pretty much everyone's in a position to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, it's only Wiggins has scored less than 20 real points 3 times in the last 7, so his consistency's kind of really come through of late, and I think the price tag pretty reasonable for cash. And I'm a little hesitant saying he has any upside for GPPs, but I don't mind him there either.
Right. I mean, it's looking like he's gonna sit in that 32 to 37 range pretty much every night going forward. But I mean, we've seen him get 40, and if he gets 40 at 6,400, that's solid. Huge. Maybe not on a 9-game slate. Might not be a winner for you, but yeah, it's kind of what I see for his upside.
Definitely, and I think you look at LaVine, he's kind of still a safe cash game play on FanDuel. I mean, still he's playing huge minutes, shooting over 50%. Like him as well. As we mentioned, I mean, Washington's perimeter defense is not that great, so I don't mind targeting those guys there.
Right.
Looking cheaper, I mean, you're kind of getting a little bit risky going down even more.
Yeah.
You're looking at Evan Fournier. if Oladipo, someone's going to have to pick up the slack offensively. No Vooch as well. It's just because of a shortened squad that you're going to look at Fournier kind of going out and at least getting the job done.
Right. In this range, you're kind of looking at some guys in bad matchups and maybe throw them in a tournament or something, but not necessarily cash consideration. But like you mentioned with Fournier, I mean, if Oladipo's out, that's going to be a lot of usage to go around. So he's in play. I think Bradley Beal is going to be really low owned tonight, and I think he's an interesting sort of correlation play with John Wall. So I think stacking those two together might be intriguing.
Yeah, and you're looking at Gary Harris, averaging 15, 3, and 2 over the last 10 games, shooting 50% from the field. His price has kind of dropped down a little bit, but draws a favorable matchup against the Lakers tonight. I think that Denver backcourt's pretty cheap, and obviously they're in one of the top matchups of the night. Mm-hmm. Josh Richardson, he's another one. Nice matchup against Orlando, and that 109 team total to target for Miami. He has shown upside, and he's still really cheap. He also has a lower floor than desired, but GPP-wise, he's a pretty decent value play with 30-point upside, and I like the matchup for him.
Yeah, I love that call. He's been super a lot of upside for his price tag of late. So yeah, definitely like that.
Anyone else you're looking at? I mean, we can talk about Wesley Matthews. Yes, higher usage, but I'm not really digging the matchup for him.
Yeah, again, it's another matchup where all those guys in that range, good plays on a normal night, but the matchups just might not necessarily make them more than tournament options for me.
Yeah. Moving on to small forward, and it's kind of a light night here. You're looking at Giannis being the top option, but that price tag it's daunting. I mean, I would love to play him tonight. I probably will have some exposure in GPPs, but building a lineup around him, you're kind of like, it's asking a lot around the surrounding players, but I do think he has that monster upside.
I think once you start to play around with roster construction tonight, you guys will sort of find out the way I did. Like once you really try to fit him in, you're really asking a lot of those secondary players. I think obviously he's in play because he has that huge upside, but yeah, it is a little tougher to fit him in tonight.
Yeah. But, I mean, looking cheaper, Kawhi Leonard is out tonight. Chandler Parsons done for the year. You're looking at the Spurs side that's going to have some value going up against a nice matchup against Memphis. I'm not sure if I'm diving down that low, but you're likely going to see Anderson take over a larger role for the San Antonio side.
Yeah, it's still a risky play, even though he's probably going to get the minutes. So definitely just a punt play. But if you are trying to really go stars and scrubs tonight, he might be someone you're forced to use.
Yeah, and we've seen him come in and play 34 minutes and be decent. I don't expect anything out of over 25 minutes, even if he does play. I just think Aldridge and Parker kind of take over a bigger role. And I just see that one kind of getting out of hand early, and I think Vegas does too already.
Yep. Definitely.
So, small forward in that range. God, Rudy Gay. Do we have to talk about him?
No. You know what? For the sake of everyone, we're just going to move right past him.
Yes, we are. Tobias Harris, a solid matchup against Charlotte's front court. Tobias Harris been playing really well. Great cash game play. Not sure he has the upside at that price tag. Not really the sexiest pick, but averaging 16, 5, and 2, he's going to get the job done. I think looking at the lower options, you're just more paying up for safety there.
Yeah, definitely a nice cash game option. I mean, we were talking, and you mentioned him having a pretty solid floor tonight, and I actually do agree with that. So he's a pretty solid cash play at 6K.
Yeah. Looking cheaper, I mean, you're targeting guys like Otto Porter. You got the Memphis guys in the situation where they're facing the Spurs. It's a Kawhi-less Spurs, but they still are the best defensive team in the land, and I always have a hard time targeting against them, which I rarely do. I still can't. I'm going to play the same card tonight and just not take any Memphis guys.
I mean, you look at Lance and you're like, okay, he has done it recently, but then you're like, no, it's Lance Stevenson, man. So I mean, he is in play, but not. I'm not trusting it tonight. And
as I said, I mean, it's a 9-game slate. There are plenty of other options to look at. you take maybe 3 or 4 games off this slate and you make Memphis, San Antonio a little bit more playable. But tonight's case, it's the lowest total on the board by a wide margin, sitting at 192. I'll pass. It's a hard pass for me.
Hard pass. That's fair. Yeah, mine's a hard pass where I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. All right. You talked me off the ledge.
Otto Porter, I mean, sitting in that similar range, 5,100. Definitely has the GPP upside. I like the matchup for him. A little bit lower floor than Desire, but I think that one total kind of puts him on the fence for me. I mean, averaging 12, 5, and 1 over the last 10 isn't exactly great, but he does have a couple 30 fantasy point games, so definitely want to keep on your radar.
Yeah, someone I like, and especially if you like that Minnesota-Washington game, he's someone to look at.
Looking cheaper, you're looking at PJ Tucker, been playing well. I mean, over the last 3 games, of course, 2 of those games came against the Lakers, 1 against Memphis. Matchup against Sacramento isn't bad either. I'm not going to trust him a lot, but I think just because I have already way too many Suns in my lineup already, he won't be fitting in.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's all right. And again, you increase that floor with playing Sacramento. So definitely, again, in play, but you like other options on Phoenix over him.
Yeah. One kind of cheap guy to keep an eye on. Really, the Hawks situation at small forward has become much more of a just kind of a role of 3 guys. I mean, Bazemore's really been the one to drop out of the minutes. Tim Hardaway's kind of stepped in and played a little bit more, but Thabo Cephalosha, 26 minutes over the last 5 games, averaging right around 24 fantasy points per game. I mean, he draws a favorable matchup with Milwaukee just because they turn the ball over a fair amount. Also, they lack rebounding, so Cephalosha can nab a few extra peripheral stats. For that price tag and the stage of small forward tonight, I don't hate it because he kind of opens up the door for like 2 superstars if you want to go that route.
And he's really solid in terms of ceiling and floor versus what his price is. I mean, that's just a really good value tonight to me. So yeah, and he definitely helps with roster construction. So, I mean, most likely 20 to 25 fantasy points, but he does have that 30-point upside that we've seen. So that's all hitting value at his price.
Yeah. One guy who's kind of come down, I think we glossed over, but Luol Deng, probable tonight after being questionable. His minutes have kind of trailed over the last 2 games because he hasn't been playing that well, 29-23 over the last 2. Was playing really well before that, so hopefully the rest day can bounce back. I love the matchup for him. And if Oladipo plays, I think he opens up a pretty weak small forward spot and kind of puts him on the map on DK there.
Definitely. Yeah, he's definitely in play. Again, a lot hinges on Oladipo, so definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Anyone else you like small forward?
I think that's pretty much it for over there. I don't think you want to go much lower than Cephalosha.
Yeah. Moving on to power forward tonight. Cousins, probable, ready to go. He missed the last game with a knee issue. Going up against the Phoenix Suns, who he dominated in 27 minutes before getting kicked out. So if he plays a full healthy 35, watch out.
Pretty much sums up Boogie perfectly, huh?
Yeah, if he plays the full 35, but yeah. I mean, this team features 2 of the top pace teams in the land, and it's a matchup that it features whatever you want. Top plays, I mean, mid-price plays, value plays. It has everything. So I really like this game. Really, it's going to be my core tonight. I mean, I can't get away from Boogie. I think if I'm paying up for Boogie, paying up for a star, it's going to be Boogie.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, definitely between him and Harden for me, but in a matchup like this, and Sacramento isn't good enough where they're going to really – I don't see a blowout concern at all or anything. So, yeah, that's just a really nice play.
Yeah. Of course, he's center on FanDuel where kind of puts things in play. He's a little bit more expensive there. But with the kind of value and a little bit looser pricing, he kind of fits in. You can definitely make some moves there. But power forwards on DK there, you're looking at Draymond Green, Paul Millsap, Dirk Nowitzki being the kind of top-tier guys, Aldridge as well being under him. Millsap's my favorite option. I just like his all-around game, his full stat lines, and a nice matchup against Milwaukee.
Yeah, again, he's wedged between 2 players that have a major blowout concern game. So, I mean, if we expected that game to be closer, I think they'd they'd be sort of on the same level of him as a play, but I think Millsap's just so much safer right now that he's just a better play of those three for me.
Yeah. Averaging 16, 9, and 3 over the last 10, and his usual 3.5 blocks plus steals per game. I just like that a lot. And Bucks ranked 24th in turnovers. Seems like it's going to be one of those nights where he just pads his stats and does it all.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I look at Dirk. I think he's definitely still in play in tournaments just because his price is pretty reasonable. And with Parsons out, I mean, he's going to be the main guy if they have any chance. So, sort of, I could see 40 to 40 fantasy point upside from him tonight if things go well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the way he's been playing of late, I mean, he's been shooting the ball uber efficient from the field. And obviously that monster game against Portland kind of inflates his recent stats a little bit. Right. But, I mean, the guy has been producing. I mean, he's been over 40 points numerous times over the last 10 and kind of turning back the clock a little bit. The big German.
He's still got it, man. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite players to watch, and now he's kind of up in that price tag where he competes a little bit. He's now going to draw a little bit lower ownership just because he's in comparison to the other plays.
Definitely.
So, one guy to touch on LaMarcus Aldridge. If this game stays close, you're looking at Aldridge going to be a solid play. And, I mean, Aldridge has been, I mean, outside the last game against Miami, he's been really solid. And with Kawhi out, obviously going to see a little bit bump in usage.
Yeah, no, he's been really solid lately. You kind of just – everyone has bad games every once in a while, so that's not really representative of a normal night for him. So, yeah, 35 to 40. I mean, even in a blowout concern, I still think you're kind of looking at that type of number from him.
Yeah, I think the upside's a little bit capped, but if you're getting that from him, he's pretty solid either way. Looking cheaper, a lot of guys in that kind of mid-range 6K, Gorja Dang, Julius Randle, both definitely in play for me, and both are kind of at a value price tag.
Yeah, man, and you mentioned the sort of – what game did you mention as the one you really like?
Kings Suns?
Yeah,
I like several.
Well, I'm looking at this Lakers Nuggets game, and I see Julius Randle there. That's definitely major double-double upside. And, I mean, we've seen him go with those sort of 15, 14 type of stat lines. I think this is a night that he could definitely hit something like that. So, at his price, I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's back-to-back 40 fantasy point games. I mean, the rebounds have been huge, 15, 14, 9, 11 over the last 4, scoring as well. I love the matchup for him. And yeah, I mean, I do like this game a lot, and I think you're looking at a game that's going to stay close. And same with the Gorja Dang there. I mean, you got Washington; they ranked 25th in rebounding, 23rd in efficiency against power forward. I mean, Dang's just been quietly getting it done. He's another defensive guy that I like as well.
Definitely.
So, looking cheaper. There are a couple interesting plays. Obviously, John Moore with Tyson Chandler out is going to be one of the top value plays tonight. I mean, the guys went for 22 and 14, 13 and 13 with 3 blocks in the 2 games. Chandler's been out. Did not travel, so we don't have to worry about it now. He gets a matchup against Sacramento. Yeah, I'm all over it again.
Yeah, no, and you have every right to be. That's a great play in all respects in all formats. So, I mean, if you sort of, when you look to pay down at this position, or sort of even in on DraftKings at the utility spots, I mean, your eyes kind of go to him pretty automatically every time. So yeah, high ownership of him tonight in your sort of tournament and cash shares.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of tournaments, Markieff Morris, back-to-back 30-point games. And yes, they were both against Atlanta, both teams that struggle against, the front court. But I'm kind of looking at him in a matchup kind of similar. Minnesota's pretty average rebounding, average efficiency against power forwards. They've allowed the 6th most fantasy points in the last 10 games. Morris, I mean, at that price tag, it's definitely reasonable, and that team total is reasonable. It just depends on how many Wizards you want to put into your lineup.
Right, and I guess that's the decision you're going to make. I just love that Washington team tonight. I don't think you really want to fully stack the team, but I mean, 2 or maybe even 3 guys, I could see quite a few of them hitting value.
Definitely. At that price tag, he doesn't have to do much, and I think he just kind of separates yourself because I think John Lure, you maybe pair 2 of them up. Maybe you don't pay up for power forward at all, but
right.
I think he's kind of a nice pivot play as well. Jabari Parker's another one because we mentioned, Atlanta struggles rebounding the ball well. I don't mind the matchup for Parker. He's played heavier minutes. Obviously, not that one against Cleveland, but Milwaukee's kind of run into a tough stretch of tough matchups. So I'm kind of looking at them to bounce back tonight against Atlanta, especially kind of keep that game close.
Yeah, and he's a little sneaky in terms of ownership percentages. I think he's going to be down sort of compared to some of the other options in that game. So that's definitely a way to get some sneaky upside.
For sure. And I think with Lure and those guys right there, no reason to go any cheaper.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, looking at center tonight, and it's kind of an interesting night because there are some top options. You're looking at Towns, Whiteside, Drummond. Whiteside being in the juicier matchup, Drummond not too bad. Towns in really the tougher matchup, but he's got the higher usage. He's got more of the offensive role.
Yeah, man, all those guys are in play, and I actually like all of their upside tonight. But yeah, again, if Oladipo plays, you're looking at Whiteside as a really nice option in all formats. But Drummond is a little sneaky to me. I think his ownership's going to be down tonight. Even if Oladipo plays, I think people are still going to be on Whiteside. So I think Drummond has some pretty interesting upside for his price.
You don't think the last 50 burger is going to drive his price or his ownership up a bit?
No, I don't.
All right. I mean, he's still at a great price. I like him in all formats. I just don't see anyone down low matching up with him well. And Charlotte being the average rebounding team they are, pretty safe double-double. But hey, if you think the ownership's going to be low, I'll trust you. But people are drawn to the game logs, and Drummond's definitely coming off a big one. But I definitely like Whiteside. I'm hoping Oladipo plays, keeps that one close. I think Towns is a nice play if you're playing, maybe two Washington guys. You're kind of going with a little game stack there.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with quite a few different options on that Minnesota team. So even in a tougher matchup, I'm still looking at him as sort of a legit option in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the guy went 14, 15, and 5 against Washington last time out. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But now we kind of get to a range where I like Horford, I like Gortat and Cash. I think it's pretty obvious, with their high floors. But then we get into an area where it's Jokic, Monroe, Len. Three up and down players, but really cheap and really good spots with really good upside.
Right. And I think when you look at Jokic and Monroe, I think those are really nice tournament plays tonight that can really get you ahead. Monroe's been up and down lately, but I do think he does have that 35 to 40 fantasy point upside if sort of things go well for him. And his price is so down now that definitely worth the gamble for me. And then, I mean, Jokic, you just look at that matchup and his price, and I mean, that could be a huge, huge advantage for you if things go well.
Yeah, I mean, Monroe and Jokic, they face two of the worst defenses against center, two of the worst rebounding teams in the league, and both at a really similar price tag with really similar upside. Pairing both of them in a DK lineup and hoping they both go off would just be huge because you're basically getting $11,000 worth of top center play.
Right.
So that's something to keep an eye on.
That's definitely an interesting sort of way to build your lineups on DraftKings. That could be some huge upside.
Yeah, I just think with those guys, there's no need to really go much lower. You got Biyombo Valanciunas kind of split in time. Jefferson not seeing the minutes he usually does, although they are trending up. And I kind of do like the matchup because they might need him out there to cover Drummond, and Drummond's not a good defender, and Detroit's not good against centers. But
yeah, the upside of the Jokic Monroe tier is a little tougher to sort of make sense of.
Yeah. All right, top player. Who's scoring the most points tonight?
Harden.
You're going Harden. Dang it! All right, I will. I'm gonna go with John Wall.
Ooh, nice. I like it.
Yeah, Harden and John Wall.
You got to stop giving me the first pick every night.
I know. Well, I was gonna take Harden, but I like Wall.
We can switch if you want. I'll take Wall.
Yeah. No, I'll take Wall. That's going to wrap things up here with the Minutes to Win It. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all the great tools and content.